Now entering the truth zone, deep into the vortex of the information revolution with your host, Michael B.
My name is Michael B., and welcome to the Truth Zone, Episode 1 on our inaugural debut. I am no stranger to the internet podcasting deal. I've been around a long time. I've also done a lot of research, as I said yesterday in my prologue, so you people will know that I am not just some off-the-cuff guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. I assure you, and the people that know me and that have known me know that I speak the truth. And right out of the gate, we have to address the New World Order. And the reason why that we have to address the New World Order is because it is all around us. And people don't realize that most of our societal woes, most of our influences, external influences, all have originated from the Marxists and from communist Russia. For instance, one of the biggest apparatuses, if you will, used to destroy the family unit, mother, father, and child, is uncontested and no-fault divorce. Now, there was a time where the only way that you couldn't even get a divorce, really. You had to get an annulment signed by the Pope. And you had to have biblical grounds. And those simply were infidelity, and if your life was in danger, say you were being physically abused, things of that nature. Other than that, when you made a commitment, that commitment was for life. For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. Well, that has gone by the boards. And that started September 19th, I believe, 1917, when Vladimir Lenin introduced no-fault and uncontested divorce in communist Russia. It was so easy where you could just write in a postcard to the government and say, I'm no longer married. I no longer wish to be married to this person, and I'm going my separate way. And that was it. Done deal. Because the communists had taken out religion. They basically outlawed Christianity, and the state was the God. So there was no more godly construct. There was no more adherence to biblical law. It was what the state allowed you to do. And the state allowed you to just easily walk away. In 1959, the first state to introduce no-fault, uncontested divorce was, predictably, the state of California. They started that, where you could just walk away. What that does is it sends a signal to a young people that, well, if things aren't working out, you really don't have to try too hard. You just walk away. Because after all, your individual happiness counts more than the whole. See, and that's another facade that we were taught, is that you're still your individual, she is her still individual, and you just meet up. It's no longer two individuals becoming one, forsaking all others, and the Bible doesn't say who is to be forsaken. It's everybody. In other words, the spouse comes first, interchangeably. But we don't have that anymore. So it's no surprise that after some 68 years later, we have a 60 to 70% divorce rate. It's no accident. It's no accident that more homes are broken. Children see the split in the family. They're conditioned to see that as the norm. They follow the pattern. And it gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse. And that is what the communists wanted. Because when you fracture the family, both parents now have to support themselves and conjointly and separately support the child or children. They both have to work now. So that leaves the child to his or her own device, and you either have to put them in an after-school program, and we know that the state is behind the curriculums for those programs. We know that. Or you have to get a private babysitter who probably has problems in their own lives. So we just create this perpetual vortex of unhappiness and depression. And is it really, really a coincidence that the depression rates are higher, the anxiety rates are higher, the suicide rates are higher, unwed mothers are higher, crime is higher? Is it really a coincidence? I say no. I say this is exactly how it's been orchestrated. And the backbone of Western civilization is still, for now, Christianity. Christianity is the backbone of Western civilization, and the Marxists, under the guise of progressives and liberals, are eating and eroding that construct away and creating an atmosphere of, well, the state says it's okay. The state has now become your God, whether you admit it or not. And we as a people, not just Americans, but yes, globally, we've been hijacked. They also brought in false Eastern religions. They've also brought in and made vogue what we call the occult, which now has been branded satanic, but it really meant secret or hidden. Well, you bet. And they're no longer a secret. It has become vogue to dabble and to ingest pre-Christianic Babylonian spiritism. And I will be doing shows on that. All in the fabrication and the utilization of attacking the backbone and the bedrock of our morals, of our ethics, and yes, of our liberty. See, we're under the guise that free yourself from the burden and the rigidity of Christianity. Really? How free do you feel? Seriously, how free do you feel? It's like, like the Patriot Act and the NDAA. How much more free and secure do you feel? You don't. And you think this so-called freedom is worth all of this misery that comes with it? As I stated, depression, anxiety, suicide, damage to our children. Women's suffrage gave women equality. Yeah, well, also your life expectancy has shrunk closer to a man's now. Your anxiety is up. Heart disease is up. Cancer is up. Depression is up. Stroke is up. Was it worth the price? And we have more broken children than ever before. Was the price worth it? I am going to say no. So, if you haven't figured it out by now, Michael B. is a Christian conservatarian, and I'll explain that. And I'm a constitutionalist, which is why my Twitter handle is Triple C. And you can find me and you can follow me on that. What is a conservatarian? Well, see, today's libertarian is nothing more than soft porn liberalism. And Gary Johnson proved that this year, this past election. A conservatarian is someone that has adopted the Jeffersonian, John Adams, and Ben Franklin, the classical founding fathers' philosophy of true freedom, liberty, and limited government, along with personal liberties, as long as you're not trespassing on my person. And yes, socially, I am conservative. I don't do drugs. I used to get drunk in the 80s with my friends on the weekends only. I don't have a criminal record. I don't screw people. I don't steal from people. I don't bear false witnesses. The Bible and the Constitution, those are my guides. So, that's what a conservatarian is. And I don't want perpetual war like the neocons that call themselves conservatives. I don't want perpetual war. I don't believe in crushing a supposed opponent and then try to make them my friend. It really doesn't work that way. It's like the bully in school, right? You have to befriend this guy or he'll beat the crap out of you. But do you really feel he's your friend? Do you really feel you could trust him? Answer is no. So, let's get into the Communist Manifesto of 1963 that was brought onto the House of Representatives floor. Is called Congressional Record Appendix, pages A34 through A35, January 10th, 1963. Current Communist Goals, extension of remarks of the Honorable A.S. Herlong, Jr. of Florida in the House of Representatives, Thursday, again, January 10th, 1963. 45 declared goals. Now, understand this. You're going to hear a few of them about communist Russia. So you could say to me that, oh, well, this applies to communist Russia. They're gone now. Well, that is true. But you're going to see a lot of these 45 points applicable to today because they are perpetual. U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war. Well, that capitulation means the United Nations will tell us what we can do and what we can't do on the foreign stage. Develop the illusion that total disarmament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. No, that would be a weakness and a vulnerability which obviously has never been exercised. And ladies and gentlemen, do you think it's also a coincidence that we've had one use of atomic warheads? One use. And it was by the United States in World War II because we were the only ones that had it. Do you think it's a coincidence that it hasn't been used before? No. Now, permit free trade. Permit free trade between all nations, regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. See, that free trade stuff. And what that free trade really means is that the big corporations get all the advantages, ship our jobs offshore, get cheap labor, and believe me, they're getting cheap labor, maximize profits, and create a global, universal, what's the word I want to use? Prosperity rate? Or you could even hyphenate that and say prosperity poverty rate. Put us all on an even keel. And what have they talked about the last few years? A universal wage for everyone, whether you're working or not. That's what this free trade crap is. And we've seen what NAFTA and GATT and the European Union have done to us. Provide American aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. Well, now it's been changed to regardless of whether or not they promote terrorism. Whether or not they're in league with our sense of human rights and liberty and equality. Let's just throw in Saudi Arabia, for instance. Do you think Saudi Arabia has the same level of human rights and religious freedom as we do? Yet the United Nations has put them in charge of human rights. Can you imagine? I mean, right in front of our faces. Extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites. Well, that has been changed to long-term loans to countries even that have declared an Islamic jihad against us and has threatened to take over our country through the Muslim infiltration and by force, which the Prime Minister of Turkey, that Erdogan dude, whatever his name is, said recently, that if Europe and America doesn't capitulate to this Muslim refugee nonsense, they'll crush us through a global caliphate, okay? Through a global jihad. But yet, we embrace them into NATO, and we give them foreign aid, we give them weapons technology, the whole 9 yards. Grant recognition of Red China, and let Red China into the UN. Of course. And how did China become communist? Well, very simple. The President of the United States at the time was a 33rd degree Mason by the name of Harry Truman. And the Masons, the Illuminati, the globalists, it doesn't matter what name you give them, ladies and gentlemen, they are cut from the same cloth. All the names are interchangeable. Status, whatever. And Harry Truman, he's quoted as saying, the greatest aspect of my life was being a 33rd degree Grand Mason, even over being President of the United States. And why is that relevant? Simply put, Harry S. Truman provided rifles to the Chinese nationalists who were fighting for democracy and freedom against the communists, but those rifles did not contain firing pins. And if anybody knows anything about a gun, if it doesn't have a firing pin, you can't shoot it. So, you can thank Harry S. Truman for China going communist. That's his fault. And, we have this Russian nonsense. Oh, the Russians are the biggest threat. The Russians. Well, there's an actress by the name of Mia Farrow. Now, she's a little bit out there. She's a little bit loony. Maybe the Hollywood life, messed her up a little bit or whatnot. She was on the Bill Maher show somewhere around 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. And she said the greatest threat to the United States and the world was China, and they all laughed at her. Bill Maher laughed at her, the panel laughed at her, the audience laughed at her as if she was crazy. Well, Mia Farrow had it second level correct. The biggest enemy to the world are the puppet masters pulling the strings on various nations, and the United Nations is the hub of that. And Islam is the muscle and the assassin. And here's the rub for you Muslim jihadists out there that think you're fighting for Allah, that think you're going to get 72 virgins, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you, and you're hearing it here live at 10:25 a.m. Central Time, deep in the heart of Texas, on the first episode of The Truth Zone. If Islam is successful in creating this global caliphate where Christianity is basically run off the table globally, if we are turned into a global state of martial law, you Muslims out there, you jihadists out there, you're not radical, you're fundamental, by the way, and we'll be talking about that down the road. You're going to be wiped out too. Oh yeah, they're going to come for you too. The globalists are going to wipe you out too. They're using you. Do you think it's an accident? Do you think they love you? Do you think it's an accident that they're funding you and right now they're protecting you? They're using you. It's the same way Satan is using them. It's the same way Satan is using Spiritism to take as many people away from Jesus Christ as he can. And when he's done with you, he'll spit you out. Oh yeah. They're going to spit you out. Because Satan uses people. And when he's done, he drains you and he spits you out. Because he knows his time is short. And if you think that's just hyperbole, you can have it. Now, already, we're at 10:26, and I only have 19 minutes left, so I'm going to skip around. And actually, I might have to funnel over into tomorrow's show and continue. Infiltrate the press. Oh, wait, I want to use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack. Well, again, take out the word communist, put in liberal and progressive. What have we had at Berkeley recently? This new organization called Antifa. The riots at Berkeley and against liberalism. Ann Coulter, you know who she is. She was set to speak at Berkeley. She had to cancel. Why? Because of the riots taking place in Berkeley. Berkeley shut her down. Okay? Use student riots to foment public protests against liberalism and progressivism. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no accident. This is not some new development. This is real. This is orchestrated. This has been rinsed and repeated over and over and over again, and it started Communist Russia. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. Voila. Look at us 54 years later from the time of this document being released, January 10th, 1963. Look at our culture. Look at our pornography market. Look at our movies. Look at our TVs. Look at the music. And I'll be talking about that, how it ties into drug use and crime. Here we are, folks. We're living it. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. You know, truth is stranger than fiction. And non-Christian beliefs are pumping this homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. No right or wrong, situational ethics. You were born that way. Folks, we're mammals in the animal kingdom. There are no homosexuals amongst any creatures in the mammal family. Now you're going to say to me, well, I've seen two male dogs hump each other. Yeah, dry hump. No penetration. And that is to show dominance over the other. I've seen my girl dog do that to one of the male dogs early on when they're brother and sister and they're both puppies. I saw her dry hump. Now, was she wearing a strap on? Nope. And, well, what about what goes on in prison? First they're heterosexual going in, and then they become homosexual, doing anal sex in there. Yeah. Because they've been thrown into a long-term, unnatural, artificial environment. They've been removed from nature. but still the innate need for companionship, sex, and intimacy doesn't die. But when you're thrown into an artificial relationship, an artificial construct, you start doing some very unnatural things. And that's what I alluded to at the top of the show, that the family unit has been broken. The natural embodiment of man, woman, and child is broken. Thus, as I said before, the depression, the anxiety, the suicides, the unhappiness, the poverty. Yes, the increased poverty. The increased encroachment of the state into our lives. This was the dream of Karl Marx and many, many others. And as we go along in the days and the weeks and the months, I am going to present you with those names of who are behind all of this pain. And I'm not going to tell you, and I kind of did allude to who, but I'm not going to come right out and say it yet, who is really in charge of all of this. I'll just give you a Bible verse, 1 John 5:19. Go check it out. But these people have something in common. They were all mad at God. You see, they know that Jehovah exists. They know that Jesus Christ exists. They don't want you to know that. They were hurt early on in their lives. They were failures. They were angry at God. They cursed at God. And misery loves company. So, to pay God back, they wanted to hurt as many people as they could and as they can. And that's what that certain individual of 1 John 5:19, that's his goal. To inflict as much pain, as much blues, as much agony as possible. Because that entity is jealous, is hateful. He's jealous because God, Jehovah, loved man so much that he became jealous. And that he became so corrupt and wanted to put himself on the same level as God. And he wanted to be man's God. And as we can see, the state wants to become our God. And these Marxists also created atheism to get you to believe that there is no God, that we are a primordial soup accident, a random occurrence, and that when you die, you're just maggot food, and this is all there is. But they take for themselves. These globalists want you to live in a state of perpetual averageness / poverty. But they're going to live like the very capitalists they have suckered you into vilifying, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm going to roll off just a couple of more of these flashpoints. I'm going to continue this tomorrow, but I'm going to leave you with a 5-minute, 42-second montage. For those of you that think that the New World Order is some sort of fantasy, and that guys like me, and guys like Alex Jones are just making this stuff up, and that we're tinfoil hat wearers, and we're just conspiracy theorists, which, by the way, was a CIA construct to discredit and humiliate those that questioned the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Yes, it's true. It is truth zone true. So, number 27, infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity and individual growth, which does not need a religious crutch. That's right. Rely on your own judgment and discernment, and don't rely on God's. Well, how's it working for you? Asked Uncle Phil, Dr. Phil. How's it working out for you? Not too good. It says right in the Bible, do not lean on your own discernment, but lean on the wisdom of Jehovah. But we've decided not to do that. We've decided to go our own way and read books from crackpots, from deceivers, from liars that want to take us away from Jesus Christ. And here we are. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that violates the principle of separation of church and state. Well, separation of church and state, ladies and gentlemen, that phrase is not in the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter to the Danbury, Connecticut congregation about, yes, there is a wall between religion and state in the sense that politicians don't answer to religious heads of state. They don't answer to pastors or congregations. They answer to the letter of the law. The First Amendment says freedom to express one's religion and to not establish a church of the United States like the Church of England. Period. Done. Very simple. It has been exploited. So I'm going to wrap up with the montage of New World Order quotes from prominent heads of state. I'll probably play it again tomorrow because the key's into 9/11. You're going to recognize a lot of these voices.
we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
And the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
The pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
So that the problem of the Bush presidency will be the emergence of a new international order.
Within the next 4 years, we will see the emergence of a new international order.
The beginning of a new international order.
But today, with Asia already outproducing Europe, India and China are clearly becoming part of our new order.
So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges.
I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
That this crisis, in the way that has developed, will require some kind of a world governance.
Good evening, everybody. President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the U.S. would participate fully.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
So I see a world order in the future with a multipolar world order.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation. We have resolved that from today we will together manage the process of globalization to secure responsibility from all and fairness to all.
And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
But in a globalized economy, we are going to have to take global responsibilities, and there is going to have to be some semblance of global governance.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period.
There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society.
Well, during the conflict with Saddam Hussein, which he handled so superbly in a short-term sense, but he kept talking about a new world order. And then President Bush, at the end of that war, promised he would give 4 graduation addresses, 4 commencement addresses, describing that new world order and what America's role was going to be in it. Turned out he gave one of those addresses and canceled the other 3 and talked about something else. That's what, because they weren't ready yet.
That in fact we're all going to have to give up a little bit of our sovereignty in order to make the world work.
And I strongly believe India will be a central actor in the new world order.
And this present window of opportunity during
My name is Michael B. This is the Truth Zone. We'll be back tomorrow for our conclusion.